Hello and welcome once again. So I'm going to do a video here that kind of going to answer a lot of questions. I don't get that many, but I do get people that ask, can I drink coffee? And I'm going to kind of explain a little detail here of one research study I found interesting. But at this point, I'm going to still give you what I think of coffee, and I'm going to tell you what my opinion is and what I feel is going to make this either negative or positive. Now, coffee is basically something that got a bad rap in the 70s or 80s, and people thought it was causing heart disease, cancer, and all of this. And why I agree with that, to one extent. The other part is that coffee is acidic to the body. And I know some people out there are going to think, oh, that's a myth with, being acidic or being too alkaline. There's a fine line between both. Also, coffee has caffeine. Caffeine will dehydrate somebody, especially if you're doing over 350 milligrams of caffeine a day. So there are some negative effects of drinking coffee. Also, you have to heat it up. I'm a big fan of raw foods. Raw coffee powder is something that I feel is beneficial. There are some superfoods out there that are made with coffee powder, and I do believe that that is actually more beneficial. So let's look at the study. They basically did an analyzation of about 130,000 adults spanning 24 years. They found no evidence that drinking coffee increases your risk of death from cancer, cardiovascular disease, or other causes. This was basically for people that knocked back 48 ounces of coffee a day. That's a lot of coffee. You should be drinking that in water. In fact, there's some indication that regular coffee drinkers might enjoy a slight drop in mortality risk. Now, the problem I see with this is, and this is going to go down and explain a little more, how it gives you a lower risk for type 2 diabetes, risk for some cancers, protection against Parkinson's disease, and improved memory, and all of these. Now, when you go on mostly a raw food diet, and you're putting in, mainly vegetables, a lot of fruits, using hemp seeds, any type of hemp protein, chia, you're getting a lot more nutrients than what you get out of coffee. There's very, very little. And you need to go out in the sun and get vitamin D made through the skin, which is going to be even more beneficial because you won't get burned if you're on mostly a raw food diet. People that typically drink coffee are not on this type of diet. They eat refined foods, they eat fast foods, they eat a lot of cooked foods. Usually someone's sitting down with a meal at a restaurant and they're drinking a cup of coffee. They're not eating raw foods, folks. So let's go down to the bottom here. This is the part that kind of really irks me. They're also saying that the drink could even help shield from a deadly form of skin cancer. The only way to protect you from skin cancer is by going in the sun. I know that's the opposite of what you've thought. Coffee's not going to protect you from skin cancer. I will tell you that right now. It's not going to. If you do not go in the sun, you're going to get aggressive forms of skin cancer. There's been other studies that have been out on skin cancer, and the people that went in the sun the most were basically the least high-risk group out of all of them. So take these into consideration and understand what I'm explaining to you here. And at this point, I'm going to personally say that unless it's coffee powder, I am not going to be a fan of this, and I don't recommend it. And, again, this part is going to explain that it's also possible that coffee's antioxidant compounds could account for the drink's anti-cancer benefits, and an explanation you'll come across a lot when reading about coffee's benefits. Now, I agree with that if it's coffee powder. What happens to the antioxidants when you steam vegetables? Well, when you're smelling them, that's the amount of nutrients you're going to get. When you microwave something, what happens to the nutrients? Microwave's the worst. 97% of the nutrients gone. 97%. When you heat up coffee, you're getting rid of a lot of these antioxidant properties. So you need coffee powder. And this is something that you want to have in something that is some type of raw superfood mixed with like camu or something along those lines, and many others as well. This is what's going to be more beneficial than just drinking a cup of heated coffee. And this is what I get out of this, and I've done the coffee powder. I've tried coffee. It's just not for me. And I personally don't like caffeine, at least in large amounts, as you would get from coffee. So bottom line is, they're going to tell you if you're chugging it by the gallons, there may be reasons to be careful. And, they're mentioning all this, and it's going down. And they're just going to explain a little bit more about the coffee, and how they're saying that it's may make you slightly live longer, maybe a few days, a week, but it's really not that big of a deal. Raw foods and raw greens are going to give you a lot more because they're raw, and we have evolved in hundreds of years. I mean, the medical community, Western medicine, didn't come out till the late 20s, really formed and started doing things in the 30s and then the 40s, and this is where a lot of these studies are paid for. And I'm not saying coffee is entirely bad for you, but I wouldn't say it's really that great for you unless it's in the powder form. Once again, I want to stress, there's plenty of other foods that are more beneficial, that give you a lot more nutrients, that will reverse cancer. I've never heard of anyone drinking coffee reversing cancer. I just don't see it. I know a lot of people that have had cancer and drank coffee, but that also has to come into consideration with the other foods that they were eating and not getting enough nutrients. It's all about nutrients, folks. That's why we're able to survive and thrive. You got to build more cells than you lose, and I don't see coffee building any more cells. I'm sorry, I don't see it. But if you must have coffee, look for some coffee powder. Do something with a raw food. Try not to bake it. Anything heated over 105 degrees, it's not really a raw food anymore. The heat will destroy the nutrients. Any questions, let me know. Thank you.